This is the EVOLPOW P3A Power Rack review. This is the 6-post version. I bought it on Amazon way back in June. It is now beginning of October, and I finally wanted to review it. So this thing retails for $7.99, but I got it for a deal, I believe $5.99. As you can see here, this is a small setup, a small garage, and I need to maximize the space without getting everything completely cluttered and everything in the way. So where do I begin? Okay, it is about 84 inches tall. It is, I believe, 65 inches in depth, and it's just a standard power rack. It's pretty heavy. This thing weighs well over 200 pounds. I have it weighed down right now with all the weights in the back, so this thing is not budging. But unfortunately, it wobbles like crazy. So if you're in there setting up with heavy weights and you're shifting it side to side, this thing will move on you. No matter how hard you tighten the bolts, this thing will wobble. I have my TV set up over here, and if I'm pulling from the side, the thing wobbles. I'll give you a demonstration right now. That is with the bolts fully tightened, and I think the reason that wobbles so much is the hardware that is included. There's still a little bit of play. It does not feel the entirety of the hole when you're mounting it, so I believe that's what is attributing to the wobbliness of the power rack. That being said, I haven't had any issues. On their website, this thing is listed as 3x2. It is not 3x2. The front of the power rack is about 2.75. The side is about 1.85 inches. And these holes are 1 inch. There are 20 of them, even though there should be 22 holes. They could have put another hole on top and another hole on the bottom, since there is room on the upright. Same goes for the pulleys. There are 20 holes for the pulleys. It should have gone lower, and it should have gone higher. I'm 5'8", and I've maximized the height of the pulley. Okay, let's talk about the pulley system. The pulley system is smooth enough. It is what you would expect for what this would be called a budget rack. It is plastic pulleys. You can, of course, upgrade to metal if you want something that's smoother, but honestly, like, you're gonna be having to replace a lot of pulleys. There's pulleys here, there's pulleys there, there's pulleys down there. All right, as you can see here, the pulley action is smooth enough. There's not a lot of friction. I greased the poles recently, but yeah, it's smooth. Is it gym smooth? Absolutely not. But is it smooth enough to use at home without too many complaints? Yeah, absolutely. All right. One other thing I want to point out is sometimes the pop pin doesn't re-engage. Let's see if it does it right now. But if I twist it and I pull it out, okay, there we go. But sometimes you pull it out too hard and you get stuck. See, it's stuck right now, so it won't engage in any of the holes. There we go. There we go. These two bolts, hey, you have to over tighten, and it flattens out the cable so it can't escape. But I wish there were a better way of doing it, because it kind of like feels a little cheap the way they went with this. I wish it was like a metal hook, and then you just kind of hook it to, you know, an eye, but you thread it through here, then you tighten it down. Same thing for this side. I made the mistake once of not checking how tight it was, and as I was pulling, this whole metal part pulled off, and I almost whacked myself. So I can see someone totally doing that if they didn't go around checking these threads every now and then. All right, but I check them every month to make sure all the parts are good. Utilizing a 2-to-1 ratio, meaning you're gonna use half of whatever you load on there. So I have 30 pounds loaded on the back. That means I'm only using 15 pounds when I'm pulling with one pulley. If I pull with both pulleys, then I'm utilizing the full 30 pounds. So if you have weight plates that are steel and you can fit a lot on the back pegs, these things support up to 400 pounds. You would be getting a lot out of it. I have bumper plates, so I can't really go as heavy as I would want, but That's why I chose this kind of system. I knew it was 2-to-1, but because the pulleys are on the outside, I can easily superset everything that I do. Now, one of my favorite features of this power rack is the hooks on the back. As you can see here, I have different attachments utilizing the hooks, and I really like it. I had another hook system that was wall mounted, but I took it down once I had this power rack because I didn't need it anymore. I really like these hooks. I wish there was more of them. I wish there was some in the back, but they only give you 4 in the front. They should have given me 1 more inside or 4 in the back also to hang up all my accessories. I would have really loved that, but I feel like this is really useful. One of my favorite features, I'm sure they're on other power racks like this. So as you can see here, the EVOLPOW P3A comes with a multi-grip pull-up bar, and it's pretty nice. I like it. It's got a good grip. I do think the handles are a little too thin. I'm gonna need to add some wraps or some fat grips to fatten them up a little bit, because it's a little thin for my fat hands. So when I grab it and I do weighted pull-ups, it hurts a little bit. Maybe I just need to man up, but I like that I can go pronated to supinated to wide. The wide is a little too wide for my shoulder and my back, but it's there. The safety bars are fine. They're really heavy. They're solid steel. I hate changing them because they screech like a freaking banshee every time I change position. So I just leave them at the very bottom position and hope for the best when I go heavy. Enough said. One of the biggest things I hate about this power rack is the landmine. It is absolutely useless. You feel like you're breaking it when you're using it, and it doesn't do what you want it to do. This is a piece of junk. Hooks, the J hooks are not my favorite. They're fine, they'll hold up. They're just not fun to re-rack because the holes are 2.5 inches apart from each other, from one hole to the other. It's not easy to find your exact height. I mean, you'll find it and you'll be fine, like once you get used to the rack. But if you're coming from something nicer to this, where you have, I guess, what they would call west side hole spaces, which is 1 inch apart, you're gonna be, you might be in between. Like for squats, I'm kind of in between. It might be, it's gonna be a little higher, it's gonna be a little lower. That's just because of the hole spacing. So when I put it a little bit lower so I'm more comfortable, I tend to re-rack a little high right here. It'll catch here and then fall into the J hooks. I tend to catch this, and yeah, so this is not like, I mean, the construction is not great. I can easily pull this off. There's been times when I re-racked too high and I pulled that thing and I had to go find it. Remember, this is not a true 3x2 power rack, so it's not easy to find accessories or attachments. Believe me, I've tried. This is what the rack comes with, and this is what you're gonna have to stay with and get used to. Not a very good J hook, but it'll get the job done. They're just dip bars. They're not great, but I'm glad they're included. It's just a hollow tube. They're not that heavy, and you got a rubber grip here. It's the same rubber grip that's on the safety bars. That's basically it. I mean, you don't want to put too much weight. I believe they're rated for like 300 pounds. So if you're doing weighted dips, you got to be careful. As you can see, if you look on the left compared to the right, the left is kind of bent more than the right. That's because I, as a 250-pound man, was doing weighted dips and I came a little too close to the weight limit. So these don't get used as much. But I can't find any more dip handles for this power rack because this power rack has weird uprights that also are not numbered, as you can see here. Yeah, for $700 you're not getting numbered uprights. Yay. Going back to me being in a garage, it's a small two-door or two-car garage, so I kind of need to maximize space as much as I can. That's why I splurged and got the weight plate storage in the back. I paid a little extra and I thought it was well worth it, but upon assembly I don't know if you can see it here, the rods for the weight storage are bent downwards. So when you're storing weights, they're not perfectly straight. It would be better if they were bent upwards, but these are bent downwards. So when you're moving the weights, and when you're moving it, shaking it, they pull themselves away from the post. Like I said, I don't know why it does that, but it does that. It does that on both sides, so it's not just one side. If you can see here, I'm holding it perfectly straight. You can see how the posts kind of angle themselves to the bottom. I don't think the construction on this power rack is all that great. I mean, it's safe enough, but you know, when you're spending that much money, you kind of want something that's at least constructed really well. So far, the wrong size bolts are not helping its cause, and now the weight plate storage being crooked is not helping its cause. You know, as I do like the machine, it's not perfect. This machine feels honestly like a first draft, like a rough draft of what they could potentially do as a company. So just keep that in mind when you're about to drop your money on this. So final thoughts on the EVOLPOW P3A 6-post variant. For $799, it's a little hard to recommend. I think if this was $699, that would be a really good deal. It's a good rack. It's not perfect. There are some flaws with it. But like I said, if you were gifted this by a loved one, you'd love it. Like, you would totally be happy with it. But if you were to spend $799, there are too many flaws that you can't overlook with the power rack that I've already listed. So $699, I would say go for it. $799, it would be a pass, especially if you go on Amazon and find similar racks with similar specs for around $500. I mean, it's a very competitive market, the budget market. $799, I can't recommend it. $599, I would say this is an option, especially because you get 6 posts. But yeah, there are pros and cons to the budget rack. I mean, even if you go up past $1,000, there's still pros and cons. But if you were saddled with this, you would be happy with it. But there are options, and just make sure you do your research before you buy anything. But that's it for the EVOLPOW P3A. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll try to get back to you. Have a good one.